Okay, I don't know if it's just me, but one thing I wanted to show you as far as TriDef, I'm not sure how well TriDef is currently being supported as far as the new games having profiles. Looking at their list of officially supported games, it looks like most of those games are a couple years old, but the generic profile seems to work for pretty much everything anyway. At least, like, if it's a game like Unreal uses an Unreal Engine, you know it's going to work. So this is what I'm wanting to show you is like this is literally what I see on my screen right now, and it makes no sense because, as you can tell, when I move the mouse around, it's like hovering over buttons, and I'm getting a description, but you cannot see the button. So what you want to do is find the invisible button that says play 3D games, and I guess it's about 3 o'clock on the far right, and you click on that, and then you get your desktop back. And I don't know if there's another way of solving this or if anybody else is having that problem. I didn't Google it or I didn't notice anybody else complaining about it. So then you get this thing. So that's basically the solution. But if you don't know anything about TriDef, here's a quick rundown. You go to File, Add Game. It's going to search. It'll find some games, usually if that is a profile. And then if it doesn't, you just click that Add Game manually. Keep that clicked how it is. Never use that one or that one. Don't need to. Then you just direct it to your game installation file. Click on the exe. You can even use just a launcher. If the game has a launcher, you can use that. And so that would put it in there. And then you, well, shoot, I should add one for you, huh? That would help. Let's see. Add a game that doesn't work. I don't know. This game uses some old weird engine. I don't think anything that is well. Okay, I was going to say Unity is not supported, but it is. It's just not very well supported at all. What do we got? Okay, so here's where you can select the profile. If I'm assuming like if you know that a game uses a game engine like Unreal 3 obviously uses the Unreal Engine, and so you could just, if your game doesn't have a profile and you know it's Unreal Engine, just pick Unreal 3, and then yeah, or if it's like the I'm sorry, I'm trying to find oh, Portal. Yeah, so Portal uses that Valve engine, Steam engine, whatever that was called. I cannot remember right now. But, so, then you click Finish. Oh, also, dang it. Okay. Properties. So you can go back and adjust and pick a different one. If what I should have shown you is how to get to the generic profile, but I believe generic is also on this drop-down list. There it is. And then you got command line augments, yeah, hotkeys. Really haven't got into messing around with this, and I'm going to because it's pretty valuable stuff in there for increasing the divergence and the pop out and stuff like that. At least the NVIDIA it's kind of was handy, so I'm assuming it's pretty handy in this one as well. It's good to remember a couple hotkeys like how to turn on and off the 3D. Well, I don't know why that says Portal 2. Let's see that. See, it should say obscure. I guess since I picked that profile, you can find profiles that people make online and download them for games that aren't officially supported. Okay, let's get to the NVIDIA Shield. So you're just going to right-click on your NVIDIA thing in the tool tray, whatever you call that, GeForce Experience. And then you're going to click on the little gear for settings, Shield. And you might not have any games here, but you want to make sure that that is clicked on. And then yeah, scroll down, because that could be actually kind of easy to miss. I think I missed that one time when I first looked into this. And then you're going to click add, and then you just add the game that you are trying to add. And what this does is it'll make it so the game is accessible on your Oculus Cinema SDK, which is the Moonlight app. And to use that app, you want to Google it and turn on developer mode and do all that good stuff. I'll probably leave you a link for that if you don't know how to do that. But yeah, so you want to have the games that you were planning on streaming on this list, I guess. Not sure if that's actually mandatory. I think that I was having success streaming some games that weren't on here. But that might be because of this one. This streams your desktop. You would want to Google this to figure out how to get that to appear, but that information is out there as well. I'll try to leave you a link, but yeah, so I'm still looking into it. I'm not sure if you really need to put any, actually I pretty much guarantee you don't need to put any games on there at all. Is what I'm thinking is if you have the desktop streaming app. Now, that's not to say that you might not get the same results. I feel that I do. I just can't say that for a certainty. Okay, well, if you had any questions about any of that, go ahead and just leave a comment. I'll get back to you and answer your questions. Thanks. Okay, now we're inside the Oculus Go, and this part is pretty easy. So you just go to the library, having already enabled developer mode and sideloaded the Oculus Cinema SDK using ADB, and you just click to unknown sources under your library and go ahead and launch it. Okay, so the first thing you see is this desktop button. What happens to me every time I click on it, I get an error, so I just click on it again and it works. Human Falls Flat is on this list, but I didn't add it to GeForce through the Shield for streaming, so I guess it just knows that it's available because I've already played it. But usually I start up the game in the desktop and then access it, but you can actually launch the games through this as well. So you get the two options, Void and Home Theater. I like the Home Theater a little more, but Void is mandatory if you want 4K. You do not get to select your seat in the Void though. So the first thing I want to point out is that you might notice that the mouse is attached to my vision, and that's going to really screw things up, and it's annoying. So what you do is double tap the trigger on the Oculus Go remote, look at the mouse and hit the trigger one time, look at trackpad and double click on that. So that got rid of that. Now you double click the trigger again. This is your video options. I'm going to select 1080p at 60 because I don't want to get booted to the Void theater for selecting 4K. Alright, now double click the trigger again and select your theater seating button up there and double click, oh no, single click on change seat until you get your seat. I like to sit in the front, and if I'm playing a split screen game I sit in the front right or wherever side I may be on. If you are playing a game in 3D, this is when you would click SBS for side-by-side mode. The game has to be in side-by-side mode, no checkered or over, under, or anything, or interwoven, nothing, but side-by-side will work. I think you got to double click on that. This is kind of a wonky menu, and I think I mentioned that nothing will be saved if you end up getting bumped out of this by taking off your headset and allowing light to enter into the sensor. Okay, so just look anywhere that's not a button and double tap the trigger to get all that off of there, and that's it. Voila, you got your Xbox controller, whatever your gamepad is, connected to your PC itself. You can connect the Steam remote to the headset itself, but to do that you would actually have to use a different method. You'd have to use Steam Link. That's pretty easy to do though. So me and my brother are probably gonna go ahead and play the little bit of this very interesting looking game called Humans.
All right, welcome back to the VR scene. Today we're going to be going over some stuff related to remote gaming and using a virtual theater with a VR headset to accomplish that. So basically I've been testing out a number of games using the NVIDIA Moonlight software. I believe somebody else is making the APK that is currently being used. And it's still in development. You can tell there's some features that are missing. Mostly what I'm talking about there is you can't save the settings that you input into the software, and that becomes an issue because every time you take off the headset for more than a second, the light comes into the headset, hits that little light sensor, and it throws off everything. It kicks you out of the virtual movie theater, and you have to get back in there, pick your seat again, and pick your settings, and disable the gaze tracking, which I'll get into. Well, I'll do it right now. The gaze tracking is basically using your vision as a mouse cursor, and that's natively comes turned on, and that can really screw up some gaming experiences, not only because you got a mouse in the way, but the game continuously gets fooled into thinking you decided to use a mouse and keyboard, and so your vision will actually be controlling the game like it's a mouse. Screws everything up. So basically my solution to that, because I do a lot of co-op gaming and also setting up the device for video capturing or whatever, and so it's off my head on the floor or on the couch or whatever, I put a little piece of tape over the light sensor, and that keeps most of those issues from happening at all. The device will still kick you back out if you just leave it there for like 15 minutes or whatever, but that's fine. Much improved in that area. So the Wi-Fi speeds required for something like this, I would suggest trying to get on a 5G network. Interestingly enough, I had a 5G network and didn't even know it. I almost went out and bought a 5G router, and then I was like looking at my Wi-Fi list, and I noticed that there was another 5G network that nobody told me about, and because I wasn't home when they installed it, and they just wrote the password and the thing on a piece of paper. So I had to switch to the 5G network and actually log into a web page to adjust the settings in the Wi-Fi router that Spectrum gave me to enable the 5G network. So maybe that I'm not the only one that happened to, and I was about to go out and waste a couple $100 on a 5G router for no reason. Other than that, let's get back to the actual virtual theater. You get about 5 or 6 options as far as the resolution and the frame rate, ranging from 480p to 4K at 60 frames per second, and obviously the Oculus Go is not a 4K device, but changing those settings in the virtual environment to 4K at 60 frames per second will give you a better experience, better visuals and everything like that, if you're able to play the game that way. Or I mean, I guess it wouldn't really come down to the processing requirements of the game, but more your Wi-Fi situation. So I tried out a handful of games. The one that really stuck out was Resident Evil 5. That game, it seems to be a little more of a fan favorite than Resident Evil 6, which had some issues, but the performance of that game is outstanding. Looks fantastic in the stereoscopic 3D mode. Just blew me away. Looks so good. I couldn't believe it. Also, that game, you can play it in split-screen co-op, and I kind of tend to lean towards those experiences. It's what fills up most of my Steam library. If you go to Steam, little tip here, if you go to Steam and download Resident Evil 5 and then do a Google search for getting the beta code for the Windows, or games for Windows Live version of that, then you will get access to the split-screen mode on the PC. That's the only way you can do it. And that split-screen mode is awesome in a virtual theater because you get your section of the split screen is in the bottom right, a little black
bar next to it, and you just sit in the front right row of the virtual movie theater. It's like you got your own screen, and you could just kind of glance over it, look at what your partner's doing if you want to. So I loving that game. So that game works in the stereoscopic 3D, which brings so much to the experience. Just kind of turns the screen into like a stage with actual depth. I've always believed that 3D brings a lot more to games than movies, because you can be a little more aggressive with controlling the convergence and the depth of the situation, and kind of customize it the way you want, or just add more pop out or depth to do your own thing. That doesn't work with every game. For instance, I couldn't get it to work with A Way Out. Didn't work. I wanted to play Call of Duty 3 Black Ops, because that's the last one that they made that was split screen on PC, but that doesn't work with stereoscopic 3D. And once you start playing the stereoscopic 3D in the virtual movie theater, it's kind of a bummer to go back to the 2D games, even though some of the 2D games are just fine and make more sense to play them in 2D. Like Helldivers has been pretty cool. Playing that one at 4K at 60 frames per second, it's outstanding. There's two options for what kind of virtual environment you're going to be in. You can be in the theater, where actually it's like what the name describes, a movie theater with the seats next to you and stuff, or you can be in the void, which is just a black void. If you're going to do a 4K stream, then you got to do the void. It'll actually just kick you directly to the void. That's good. I use both of them. Sometimes it's nice to be in a theater because it keeps you kind of more grounded instead of just being in an abyss. Other times you want to be just fully immersed in the game. The void makes more sense at that point. You cannot change your seat in perspective to the void, as far as I can tell, which is kind of weird, but you're stuck directly in the middle of it, which is, for most experiences, where you want to be anyway. Let's see. I tried out Kane and Lynch, another split-screen co-op game. You could enable stereoscopic 3D in that one, but it would only be on the right side of the screen. The other guy would get 2D, which is kind of weird, but whatever. I don't think I mentioned the stereoscopic 3D method that I'm using is Tri-Def, and it's not free. You get 2 weeks free trial. That's what I'm using right now, is the free trial, but I am going to pay for their software. I think it's like $39 or something. I don't know, but it just works super well, and it's really easy to use. They have profiles for most of the games, but you can use the generic profile for a lot of the other ones. And there's people who come up with workarounds and stuff to get specific titles to work that are not officially supported. So you can just Google that stuff. I recommend it. You have to use side-by-side 3D mode to get this to work, and NVIDIA, I don't think they for sure don't offer that. They're using like checkerboard or interweave-in 3D. There's a free workaround if you want to attempt it to avoid paying for Tri-Def. It's on Reddit. I'll probably leave a link to it. I couldn't get it to work. I'm not sure if anybody else is going to be able to at this point, or why I couldn't, because the whole method revolves around enabling red cyan 3D mode in NVIDIA control panel, and I didn't have the option to get to that. You need to find 3D discover mode, and maybe would require rolling back to a earlier driver, but I don't want to mess with that. Okay, well, I think we're wrapping this up. I'm gonna get to some game footage. I'm gonna show some of the games that I thought worked well in the virtual environment. Mostly Resident Evil 5 was just so good. Helldivers was cool, but not in 3D. It didn't look good. It didn't have the depth, which is weird because it looked great in 3D on my 3D TV, even though I had to stand like right in front of a 55-inch TV, because it's just it's like a monitor, desk monitor kind of game. Small text. That game is awesome, by the way. It's really interesting. I think it's made by Sony, but it's new. I don't know much about it. I did the tutorial in the first mission and kind of got it set up and ready for a co-op experience. Looking forward to playing that one. Played Humans Fall Flat. That game looks cool. I don't know much about it. It's got a cool art style and animation. Doesn't work well in 3D. You can use a generic 3D profile, but it looks like garbage. It's all distorted. I guess I think I covered all the games that I checked out. Resident Evil 5, Kane and Lynch, Helldivers, Humans Fall Flat, Way Out, and Call of Duty Black Ops. Call of Duty Black Ops, I think I mentioned that that one just doesn't work in 3D. I don't know if I did bring up that one. I wanted to check it out and play it because it was the last Call of Duty game that had a split screen for the PC. And I didn't actually get to try out any first-person shooters in the virtual environment. I don't think that the virtual environment would really lend itself to a first-person shooter, but I could be wrong. Okay, I think I've rambled on about that long enough, and I'm going to get to the games. Hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching.
Come on!
Did you find a way? Oh, wow. How do you get that out? Does it look like it's got it? Let's go this way. Outstanding. Didn't realize there was so much to investigate. I didn't get it. I got a herb. Oh man. No, they just put the instructions up on my screen a moment ago, right before you said that. Pretty cool. Oh, I'm ready. You gotta interact with the door if you can wedge your way in there. Maybe I need to move. Yeah, you try it. Oh, God, hold up. Yeah, in this game, well,
Freeze! Are you okay?
why'd he go for me? That's bull. See, what I was gonna say earlier is in this game. Oh wow, he's not dead. That's so cool looking. I've shot him in the head a couple times, I think.
What the hell just
You
happened?
can't move your feet when
They didn't move like any zombies I've ever seen.
or using a knife. You still got that red dot on your screen? Maybe there's more investigating to do. But looking out for an exit. Oh, here we go. Jump out the window for some reason, right through the glass. Awesome. Yep, to the right. Yeah, there you go. You don't have to shove your face in the glass. You already did that. Oh, that's a lot of them. Shit is the pain I forget how to do that. Try to figure out if. Oh, there. How did you do that? How did you do it?
I'm coming!
Well, you're just hurting me. Yeah, this is intense. I think I'm out of ammo for the gun. Sure.
Hold on!
Should we be trying to get out of here?
Hold on!
There's just... I don't understand it. Yeah.
I think we're supposed to take that group out.
I don't know what to say.
Your special move?
I think I did. Yeah, I did. But they kept coming.